into it. People can trickle in as they do. But normally I kind of check in on how we're doing, but I actually want to do a little bit of backwards today. I wanted to kind of talk about the two VODs as an overview, but not deep dive into it like we did the first player breakdown one. The first
Mhm.
player
Yeah.
breakdown one, if you recall, we kind of talked about some of the key takeaways. Like we went backwards in this sense, and then we went into the VOD and looked at the rounds kind of one by one. I think
Right.
what I want to do today is kind of talk about the VODs as a whole, might show you a couple of rounds. And then I actually want to go into a custom and try to drill these things a little bit more closely. And the main reason
Yeah.
I think is because you have so much experience playing Recon that a lot of the time it seems like when we don't have a different type of plan, we're going to be falling back into our old stuff. And that's kind of like a double-edged sword in the sense that um, it is a comfy area for you, so we aren't actually spending that time implementing, but it's good for us in the sense that we have a good fallback that works decently. Um, which is also a topic of discussion. I was wondering, or I was flirting with the idea of potentially putting us on a completely new role to learn the game in a different perspective and kind of do it as like a system shock. Because you have so much experience playing Recon that um, learning new habits is sometimes more difficult when you have to break your old habits first. And that's kind of what I'm seeing, at least from these two games here. Specifically, the Sova Haven a little bit more than the Fade Lotus, because I have a reference point for the Sova Haven. If you recall, our first player breakdown one was a Sova Haven. So being able to kind of compare the two um, was interesting. But yeah, um, yeah, we'll kind of hop into it then. Let me pull up the Sova Haven VOD first. But did you, I guess, have any initial comments?
Yeah. I mean, about changing roles. I mean, you're the coach here, so I'm always willing to try things. And I mean, this is something that like my friends have also talked to me about, and like I did like a little bit of like alt duelist stuff, and like I don't know, like I get the point, and I would need to spend time with it and like really figure out what the intent is and everything to go along with that. And I would definitely need help doing it, but it is something I'd be open to.
For sure. I will say it's not something that's necessary. It's a different type of challenge. But once we look at the VODs, you might have a clearer idea on it on why I'm thinking that. So I'll try to translate my vision across a little bit more. Um, but let's kind of hop into it. So key takeaways. Starting with defense. Between the two games, we weren't really playing too much fast rotate, which I think we were doing more of on the Haven game. On Lotus in particular, we were fighting extremities, which again kind of makes sense due to number one, we haven't looked at it yet, and number two, extremity control is very important on that map, similar to Fracture. So in that sense, we aren't actually fully playing the traditional 80-20. And then the other thing with our defense is a lot of our players have rehearsed, which is good, but this is kind of what I was saying earlier. We might fall into old habits quickly. And we see that a little bit with our routing on A site, on Haven, when we're falling back. And I wanted to kind of point that out. Attack, the main thing that I saw, which I think is one of the things I wanted to drill after we look at the VODs, is scaling. Um, Oftentimes as a recon initiator, I've noticed from myself and other people that play recon is we can be so reliant on our util to give us info that when we actually exit the choke point out of the smoke or whatever, our preem and our peaks on site aren't actually very clean. And occasionally it's getting you killed. Sometimes it's not. It doesn't matter at all because the enemy team isn't there to punish. But it's something that could definitely be polished. Maybe more importantly, is actually the positioning and post plants. We had a handful of rounds that were lost due to repositioning. I would say, I don't even want to say passive here, but we were repositioning in a way that prioritized util rather than a gun duel. Um, And that's something that I wanted to explore a little bit deeper because I know we've touched on it before. But again, in the idea of rehearsing, I want to try and take a different approach in coaching this time, in less about more knowledge and more about implementation. And I think in our case here, it'll be good to hop into custom and kind of drill that down. In terms of mechs, well, what kind of, in terms of prescriptions, you'll see it a little bit closely, but I think something we could potentially add into our routine is some type of custom preem scaling practice. Just because it's, I guess, something that could be polished. I think it's a simple thing that you can kind of work on. Yeah, so Silva Haven, we started attack this game. Defaulted C a couple of times. I will touch on this a little bit. Scaling sites could be polished. I'll point out a couple of those. And then Subult, we're naturally falling back. So very similar stuff to our first Silva Haven. Our first Silva Haven, though, didn't exactly touch on DC default, but we kind of slightly pivoted away from lineup darts, very slightly. Post plants, you can see here, was also passive in terms of positioning. We would fall back. And then drone usage was low. We are droning a lot more this VOD, hence the C defaults. But two of those things are somewhat similar. Defense, we mixed up between B and A starts, which I was pretty happy about. Like we weren't just fully stuck A. Decision making on the rotates was somewhat inconsistent. And the example I'll show you is basically we would start A long and then either fall back to site or fall back to fight short. And it was kind of like I would like to see it be the same almost all the time. But we were, as the game adapted, went to A short, which is good. And then I guess this is the expansion here. Sometimes fall back A site, sometimes A short. Rotates off of B site in particular was a little bit slow. With the fast rotate protocol, when you're playing center, it should literally be off of first sign of life with one brain cell. In our case, when you look at the VOD, you can justify the slower rotate because they were playing slower. But I would have liked to see that be an adaptation as the game progressed rather than the state. And then the A pushes were 50-50 on that. So let's take a look here. My goal today isn't actually to overload. It's just to point out a couple things, and then I want to work on like one or two things in the custom because I think they are recurring things that we're seeing. So, but before we can even do that, I have to show you what the VOD looked like. And we'll just go through this VOD in particular pretty quickly, but we'll go through it with each note. And on the Fade Lotus, we actually won't take a look at it at all. I did take a look at it, but I think in order to save some time there and then focus on the actual implementation drills, we'll kind of skip that for now. But 100%. The Silva Haven was pretty good. So pistol, C exec. I think this is fine. I think we did the lineup dart, which again is also fine. It just is what we're used to. Clean this up a little bit. Going for the C exec. I like our scaling here. You can see we're second in. And we do get this kill. So this round here in particular was pretty strong. We end up winning it pretty nicely. As soon as we plant, we kill this guy, and we're in a nice 2v5 here. And we aren't actually positioning safely. So I was pretty happy with this pistol just in general. We're fighting, we're playing the choke, we're playing on site, and we ended up hitting a pretty nice shot on this jet dash here that looked pretty nice. So that guy got completely shit on. This was a great round. As the game kind of progressed, you were still calming, called cancel. This was good. You end up going back to A, and then you start scaling short. And I think this is one round here where our scaling actually looked really good. Right, like we actually full cleared the corner here with proper preem, and then we're going around here and we're in sight. And we pretty much just clean up this round pretty easily. So we're looking strong off the opener here. This is kind of where I go question mark a little bit. This is I don't want to say like personal preference. I think objectively defaulting C on Haven doesn't give you much. You gain the cubby and potentially an orb, but typically your initiator util should be used to take hard places on the map, which in this map should be towards A or potentially garage. So that's something that you might want to consider in the future. But defaulting C at the start is really only useful to either push off an op or to get the orb, which in both cases actually kind of makes sense given what they were doing this game. but I don't want it to be our default. And just over the long term, you will just get more default or value going elsewhere. But you'll see here, you'll kind of just see how we kind of just vibe out here. Like our drone or our dart baits out the orb, and we do get the orb, so it's a pretty good end result on the default. But you can see we basically just gained like maybe this space. Comparatively, if we default today, you might be able to get like all of this space potentially. Maybe just one of the lanes, but typically A space is better than C space. Going for a little bit, you calm your Silver drone, which is quite nice. We kind of go out, and this is where we have another example of C scaling. So you'll see we kind of just run out here. Preem is kind of in Narnia, and then we hard clear left as we're kind of exposing the spawn, which thankfully we don't get punished for because this guy isn't as wide as he could have been. But you can hopefully see that the scaling is very awkward here.
Oh yeah, 100%. I recognized that immediately when I was looking back at this, and in the moment I was like, oh wait.
Yeah, it feels a little bit strange, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much from this round forward, you're starting to see our scaling start to get a little bit worse, and it's something that I noticed as well on the Lotus VOD, but you just have to trust me on that one. And this is probably the biggest red flag that I saw. So we got on the site, we plant, we're in the 2v3, and we immediately knife out and go pick up flank. And there's a couple of reasons why I don't like this. One is we're in a 3v2, so typically playing with your teammate to trade out is better. Two is something that we talked about where we kind of want to be trying to position on-site in the post plant instead of defaulting into the old habit of using your soul vault for kind of the round secure. And I think the third here is we had a little bit of info on where they were. So in this scenario here, it might actually just make sense for you and your Omen to just walk up and fight spawn. But regardless, what you'll see here is because we leave, it ends up actually being 3 1v1s this round, which we win our 1v1, which is great. But you can kind of see everyone's just spread out, which is kind of the opposite of what we want to happen. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I know that's an old habit that's kind of coming back up. Next round, you go for your dart plus ult. I thought this was fine. We get the kill, and then we eventually had to go into this cubby to drone, I think. That might have been a different round. Get this one, actually. What happens here? Get the site, we clear flank, it looks like. Yeah, so we end up clearing flank. Oh, here's peeking technique. So how do I explain this? When I was looking at your gunfights in particular, you were really good at winning gun duels after the initial peak. So in other words, when you were in the open and actually dueling and strafing and stuff like that, we converted those like a lot of the time. But the initial setup of the fight was a thing that was missing. So you'll see again here in this fight, we kind of like did that like weird crouch into it, and we're actually not peeking this properly because it seems like we aren't expecting them. But despite that, we kind of go out and we have like really good movement in the 2K here. So I think this is a very easy fix in the sense that it's very easy to drill. You just go into custom, you practice peeking everything properly, you slow down, and you really make sure your fundamental is as clean as it could be, right? This is just a drill thing. So in that sense, it's very easy to work on. But yeah, let's keep going here. Short dart, this is fine. What you'll notice here is we did short dart and then went long, which I was a little bit scared about just because we are alone. But ultimately, I would have been okay with it if we just stopped the drone. What you'll notice though is we see the contact on minimap here. You're like, oh, yep, they're fighting. Let me run out and fight as well. But notice our actual peak on backside, number one, wasn't really ready. And number two, our teammates ended up actually not scaling because it was just a Phoenix ult. So we ended up dying and then there's no trade. But I would have been way more okay with it if our preem and the fight itself was like the setup was actually good. But we're kind of seeing the recurring theme that the setup isn't actually as clean as it could be. And this just seems to be, again, the pattern that we're seeing when it's go time. We kind of just speed up a little bit too quickly and aren't giving ourselves enough time for the first fight. But in this example, if we're talking game sense decision making, we should, number one, recognize we're alone. And then recognize that we should probably drone since we are alone. And that would probably be right here. Droning here would slightly be better.
100%.
Okay, so let's keep going. This round here, we darted instead of droning. I know we touched on this very briefly, but if they have op money, if you're C rushing, droning instead of darting is a little bit better. I have the power of hindsight here, watching your teammate die, so I was able to kind of note this. It's a bit harder to take a look at in game, I will admit. But we continue going here, and then we try to drone the upper, and unfortunately our teammate still dies to it, and we missed the tag. And then we cancel. That will unfortunately just happen. I think our Omen ult today, and then yeah, we kind of ran past there. And I think our Omen ended up winning the round. So we had, I think, 1 or 2 more rounds to look at here. Oh no, we actually had a couple more. Didn't realize I noted this often. It's quick. Okay, so this one's a little bit interesting to me. You might recall, but there you literally said that they're low buy, and then you called a C split, which is typically the opposite of what you want to do. But looking at a Viper comp, it kind of makes sense because you're gonna get stalled out C long. You did say careful of the shotgun, so it seems like you're aware of it. I don't know what just happened.
We're kind of broke here.
Twitch VOD skips weirdly sometimes.
Garage.
Okay, so yeah, drone garage here. You'll see the hit.
Viper's on B.
All this is fine. Unfortunately, your teammates don't actually scale with the drone as quickly as they could be, and we get punished for that later in the game. But dark sight here, boop. We go out. We could sight pretty freely. Plant. I actually played on site this time, and I believe you killed the Yoru ult, and then you killed the Jet after. So hopefully you can kind of see the decision making to play on site and off site. There's a pretty night and day difference because one gives us more gunfights and one doesn't. And when we don't have Sova ult, we tend to play on site, which is quite nice to see. But we need to get rid of the Sova ult falling back pattern. And then here's another peek. We knew the Viper was backside, so you'll see in this fight here, we kind of pull out a knife. I think you knew this when you just looked at it, but it's just another fight where we're kind of caught scaling. So go time, our bad habits are kind of coming out. A drone exec, this was fine. We canceled. This comment was more for me. This round in particular, you'll see the post plant. So we end up going C and planting. And this is where instead of playing for a kill, we played for our ult. So we're 2v2 here. Context, we have spawn here. He calls that there's potentially one B rotating, and then they end up, I believe, doubling up, or like one goes garage and one goes long or something.
Putting that for bait.
We just get into a very awkward post plant here, where
nothing now.
We're both spawn, and then now we're playing the Sova ult on tap, and it could have worked out for sure, especially if our Omen saved the blind. But you'll see it just feels very awkward here. And then you also see the peak here. We actually didn't do any Deddy peaks. We kind of just wide swung, hoping that he would miss. And that, again, is a common theme when we're pressured to speed up. But I just wasn't a fan of the actual reposition to go spawn to play our ult. I would have loved to play for a kill here, and just not lean on the util side too much. And you can hopefully see that there's a pattern, at least with the post plant here. It, again, happens on Lotus a couple of rounds. I don't know if you recall. I'm not going to show it just because of the time, but I believe we're in a 4v2. 2 guys kind of swung out and got 1-d'd, and then you call your Neon to fall back tree. Then the Gecko ulted, and then they end up winning that round with the detain. We very easily that round could have just walked to drop after the plant and taken space, but it's our immediate reactions just fall back, play safe, turtle up, play the post plant from util. And if you're playing Teho, that probably makes sense. I would imagine if you, it's gonna sound very strange to say, but if you didn't change anything about your playstyle and just locked Teho, it would probably work out with a plus 50% win rate. The main reason for that, I think, is just because Teho is kind of broken and also rewards the passive like offsite playstyle. So that is something to consider, which I didn't really think about until now. But you have a couple of potential routes to go after this session. Number 1, drill in the recon initiator stuff. 2, switch roles to kind of get a fresh perspective on the game. And then 3, I guess, do a slight pivot in terms of agents, but keep the same playstyle on the Teho. That's something I'll have to think about a little bit more. But keep going here. You'll see this was just a standard execute. Go to A site instead. We got site.
Nobody went short.
We planted. We won this round, I believe. Went wide. This was just a strong post, and we're on site kind of playing the post. So this was just a good round. Easy A rush. And here, drone C looking for the op. This was the C default that we kind of went
Yeah,
for.
this is the round I trolled.
You did get a kill.
On C.
Yeah, you kind of knew what the mistake was after the VOD, or sorry, after the round.
Is also C.
But yeah, you end up killing this idiot here. Not that one. Your ult again. This guy's your ult conversions are fucking low. But we killed this guy.
They're really funny.
Yeah. And then yeah, we kind of overstayed on the op. But the more important thing to me is number one, again, the C default. And then number two, you kind of already got your kills, so falling back is better. But yeah, we ended up dying here, and our teammates ended up losing that one. It was close. Defense, you'll see we played more B starts, which was good. What you'll see is the kind of the inconsistency in decision making. So here's one. We A start, we shock dart. And our immediate reaction after this is just to fall back after they were spotted, instead of going to short like you did in the following rounds. So we end up falling back to back site.
Giving long smoke.
Which they don't end up committing. They did a weird fake. This Harbor does like some weird troll shit. And then we go to C, and this was fine. I would have liked to calm our dart, but again, that's not our focus here. And I just wanted to show these fucking insane shock darts. Like, I don't even know what he timed it off of, but yeah, that's...
I don't either.
That's some goated ass shocks. Next round, B start. Pretty happy. Love the B start.
Oh, okay.
So it lets us play fast rotate, which is something we talked about. They darted A, so if going off of the one brain cell rotate, we would highly consider insta rotating A here. They ended up actually harbor walling, so we opted to stay B, which makes sense. So we stay B, we ended up giving water with 2 kills, and that was good. We start again. You'll notice in this case, we actually don't one brain cell rotate, and we kind of stay. We do a little spam. Shots are spotted C. At this point, I would just knife out rotate C. Or I would encourage you to knife out rotate C, given what we've talked about. And we try to, and then you decide, let's pause and drone B, which ultimately makes sense if you think about the context of the sentinel delay and all of that stuff. But it's kind of just not the implementation I'm looking for, I guess. So we drone, they dart, we rotate, they're still not out. So again, you could look back at this and be like, well, you know, I knew that we were going to have strong delay to buy us time, so I might as well clear the lurk. I can see that point, but when you start adding those details, it kind of makes it difficult to see implementation. We come back B here after the dart, and we end up taking this front B fight, and I think that's okay. I'm okay with us taking the fight here. But the main thing I wanted to see is actually rotate a bit quicker, and potentially, if we're thinking about the quick over rotate, instead of darting and coming back, we could have potentially done a mid-round aggression and pushed through C and look for a flank. So I don't think that's the better play here in the grand scheme of things, but I think that's the play I'm looking for given the implementation goal. Next round, B start. The main benefit of B starting is to fast rotate, but I like that we're looking for a play here. I don't like that it's a cubby commit. I would have liked us to look for the fight grass, because one play is active and one play is not active, I guess. Like, we're kind of just sitting here. You'll notice we sit in this corner for an extended period of time. Players are spotted A. We aren't able to fast rotate because we're stuck in this cubby. What you could do potentially is start peeking out mid once these players are spotted A to look for the lurker. But we end up not doing that either. So they are executing A, which means that your teammates have no rotators coming in because you're technically their rotator. Right? So the C rotate actually comes in first, which is not ideal for them. But thankfully they are able to stay alive on site for long enough that your C rotator comes in and your dart comes in, and no kills has happened yet. This is normally a miracle at this point because our rotate's a bit slow. But it does end up working out for us because our C rotate floods, and then we end up flooding, and we end up, I believe, getting 2 kills. And no kills happened before that. So despite them harbor ulting and our rotates being slow, we kind of somehow won the round, which is a rare occasion. And I want you to see that.
No, I totally recognize that.
Next round, B start. This was fine. A show C pressure. Peek mid, rotate. I like that this rotate timing is a bit quicker. We decide to rotate garage instead, which makes sense. Personally, I would have liked to see you just straight up fight garage instead of darting. I feel like this dart probably could have been used a little bit more greedily, I guess. Like, let's say you spotted someone garage, then you can dart to refight instead. Or if you got smoked off or something. But it does let you safely clear garage, which is quite nice. It just feels a little bit respectful. And
Drone.
yeah, that's just that. We end up jumping down, which I guess in hindsight, if you had your dart, you could have darted this if you wanted to drop down. But that's something to think about. We end up actually killing this guy
Front garage.
eventually. Yeah. And then from here, I would have liked to see us try to drone grass to get more info. You end up prepping to try to sub ult the plant, which is fine. I think technically, if you actually fell back to C site, prepping for the plant ult would have been better, just so you have safety instead of being here. But joining mid, I think, would have been perfect here.
I'm gonna ult plant. Just make sure they don't push.
They end up
me.
actually making the best play possible, going A-Link to
Yeah.
C, or yeah, A-Link to A, and
100%.
we get caught off guard by this guy. So honestly, kudos to them. They found the gap and they exploited it. I would have just liked to see us be a bit more intentional with getting the info grass. If I recall correctly, our defense, we actually didn't get grass info at all. Which is probably one of the, I don't want to say primary things that a Sova does. It's definitely not. But out of all the agents on your team, Sova is probably the one that can get this info consistently.
Yeah.
So that's something that we weren't doing this game. Moving forward a little bit. Again, different round, same round,
I think this is a different round.
different rounds.
My fucking ass.
Yeah, different rounds. So yeah, we rotated in Dota Garage again. Combo your Sova
Wow,
ult with
that
Phoenix
is a
ult. I
decision.
quite like this. You did it reactively off of him, which was good. You recognized he was fighting. Fortunately, we don't get any kills with it, but you did get a tag. And yeah, I think that was fine. We won't win this round. It's just kind of a fucked round anyways, but I did quite like the attempt. Oh, wait, did we win this round? Yeah, we did. We did win this round. We did win this round.
Also short. Hold.
Yeah, you calmed this guy. So that ended up being a good retake. A start here, which I'm okay with.
That is.
And you'll notice the decision making here is what implementation could have looked like on pistol. We darted A, they showed pressure, and we actually go back to short.
Outside A lobby.
And we walk down short and we look for this fight. I was like, when I saw this, I was like, nice. Like, we're actually looking for this. I want this to be our pattern always. And that's the difficult thing when reviewing your VODs in particular. It's like we implement some of the things sometimes, which means that we're like in like a weird, odd middle ground where we're not always doing it or not always doing it. So it's not like a knowledge issue. It's like an implementation issue, which is difficult, I think. Which, to be fair, is probably the more important thing, like harder thing to do, sorry, implementation. But yeah, we have those elements. A start again, and then you'll see, same as before, we will reposition the fight short, which I thought was nice. Unfortunately, this guy jiggles us, and then we have to fall back.
Say smoke on the way.
Sight smoke comes in, we have a good
Smoke on
A-hold,
the way, and I'm
just to see
ulting
it.
to you.
I thought this was fucking insane. We jumped in the smoke and killed the second guy.
Oh, the jet's out.
Kill this guy, jump in the smoke, fucking kill that guy, and then we get
Rushing
judged.
the smoke.
But I was quite happy with the A-hold here. I like that we repositioned from A-long to go A-short, look for that fight, and then we played the mid-side smoke pretty well. And then this is kind of where we had like 50-50s on the A-push. So we insta-darted, we walked up. I thought this was a good adaptation, given that we haven't played Extremity all game. It's something that you could probably catch them off guard with. And then we end up fully pushing, which I think was good. I would have liked to see us clear this left side a little bit better. So we end up getting caught off guard a little bit. But we get this kill, and then this guy kind of shows up. So in terms of angle clearing, it's hopefully an obvious thing that we're kind of lacking here, that we could be better on. Just being a lot more aware of threats coming back out. We tend to like kind of just rush the angle clears and kind of just have small intuitions and reads that they aren't in certain spots. And unfortunately, this game and the Lotus game, we were getting punished for it occasionally. Yeah, so we get traded. Ultimately, I like the play to push up. It's just the mechanics could be better. Patience is found, kill the Yoru, which wasn't a fast rotate round, but we get the kill. Evan start this eco round, which I thought was very strange in terms of like activeness. We end up trying to rotate onto site later. which they do end up coming A. So it was like a weird round from them. I don't know what they're doing this game. They like all defaulted and then just took their own fights. But
104
the thing that stood out to me this game or this round was just how
Are you
passive our
out?
starting position was. Despite us trying to rotate back into sight.
Yeah, I don't know why I started Heaven that round. I don't remember.
Maybe
I
the
think I
dodge
was
harbor
just
roll or
like-
something, but
I think I was talking and then like I just kind of wandered somewhere, honestly.
yeah, that makes sense. So again, we do another A start, push for the A line. This was all good. It's just actually the angle we opted for was suboptimal. So I don't know how often you end up getting pushed on this A line, but most of the time when you see players get pushed up on the A line, they actually go slightly wider. I'm gonna draw it on the
Yeah.
mini map, but it's kind of like they get this line instead, so that you actually kill the player that's like rounding this corner, which you'll see
Yep,
is
no, in hindsight, I was like, I'm so dumb.
yeah, but the actual play itself was good because we could have had like a really good A punish on the reclear here. So yeah. Also another thing to consider is our duo Q here is short. He's on Omen, so really he should just be on the other side of short and then playing on this box and holding this line, the A lobby contact for you. Or vice versa. You could have contact for his swing, but there's no contact set up here, which means that when you get the fight, like your kill's untradeable. So
Yeah, it's
um,
not the best way to do it.
yeah, just a setup issue there. But yeah, we died on the reclear. We end up crashing out at some point. And then we had a couple of OT rounds. Seed drone on the OT round, and then we pushed up again
I'm
on
walking up.
the OT round. So the A push up play itself is making sense, right? Like it's adaptation based on the read of what's been happening in this game, which is good. Okay, so let me kind of come back to center here. The two things that I want to highlight is number one, attack scaling needs work. And honestly, it's not even related to specifically just attack, but when it's like go time, our angle clearing is oftentimes, I guess like we're skipping angles or we're moving too quickly that we're not like actually pre-aiming the angle and peeking properly. Or we're just like ignoring certain. I guess that goes back to the first one. So yeah, those two mainly, just scaling, peeking, crosshair placement problems. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the playbook consistency. So this relates into our post plants. We're kind of falling back when we could opt to just playing on site and play trades for attack. And then defense, our rotates are either too slow or inconsistent. So on the A site rotate there, we're spotted long, and then one round we fell back, but the other two rounds we fought short. And then the B rounds there, we aren't one brain cell rotating like immediately. So I know that these are all things that you know. I think this is where those old habits are kind of coming back into play. So when I was trying to think of solutions here, I was like, okay, if we put this guy on, like, let's just theoretically say Clove, it's a completely new agent and all the decision making would be fresh. So that would be one way to go about it because it would isolate that decision making on defense. And also it would help you focus in on your mechanics for scaling because after you drop smokes, you're kind of just gone out. So I feel like from that perspective, it's a very easy recommendation for me to make to isolate those two things I want you to work on if we were to switch over to Clove. I tend to like to recommend the Clove ISO Reyna type of dynamic because it is those are agents that have number one, simple play styles that you can easily replicate. And number two, it hyperfixates on your gun duels, which is the foundation of Valorant anyways. So that's a recommendation I give to players as well that are in low elo. Like, you know, if you're completely new to the game, I recommend those agents to kind of train those basic skills and the fundamental skills, which is fighting, until you graduate out of tutorial, because it builds up your fundamentals. In our case here, basically, we are technically out of the tutorial phase, but we need to go back and revisit some of those fundamentals. And I don't want you to feel like you're lacking because I say that. It's a recommendation that I give players as high as Immortal sometimes. Maybe one of the more recent examples, also a Recon Initiator, actually. When I started working with him, he was Ascendant 1, sub player. I basically was like, look, we got to clean up our fundamental fighting stuff. And after like 2 months or so, maybe like the first month and a half. He was like Immortal 1, Immortal 2. I should preface, I believe he was an Immortal player before. But when he was playing Recon, he developed a lot of other habits, and it was hard to kind of override those, and the mechanics in fighting was kind of falling off. So Clove Prescription allowed him to focus on that, and then he was able to kind of rank up because, again, Valorant as a fundamental is a shooter first. So that would be my, if I had it my way, that would be my choice. I would put you on the Clove to just isolate those two things. Ultimately, it's your journey and not mine. I'm just here to assist you. So I'm going to go back to the other two things I said. The Taeho one was new, but the other way we could do this is spend a lot of time drilling in the new things that we want to see via customs or swift plays or something that's like low stakes environment so you can get a lot of repetitions in it. The first one would be post plants. Sorry, not post plant, scaling. As you're going onto site, like clearing angles, all that stuff. So you could go into a custom and just pretend like you're executing. Throw your dart, come out, jiggle the first angle, maybe jump peek. Like pretend like you're actually executing, clearing every single angle and like just rehearse it. So you can get that scaling done. So it becomes automatic and drilled. And then once you actually get on site, consider where you would play post plants, how you'd want to play it, think about the different dynamics, but avoid falling off of site and just like try to visualize around in your head. That would be for attack. For defense, it sounds so brain dead to say, but literally you just sit somewhere on the start of the round, drop the barriers, stare at a wall for 1 second, 2 seconds, pretend like there's noise A or noise C, and then you just immediately rotate and then you just run there and then dart. And you need to kind of like override that. Like you need to make it instinctual. And again, it sounds so dumb, but it really is just about getting that repetition in and that framing and just being in that position so that when you do it once, it becomes more habitual. And right now, it's not habitual. So when we're kind of playing the game and our mental stack is picking up on other things, whether or not we're playing the game and we're kind of, the emotional investment into that game, or we're chatting with our duo or trio, whatever, or maybe we just had like a lapse in judgment and we kind of just forgot what to do. That we will always fall back into your old habits, right? So you have to drill in the new habits enough so that they become stronger than your old habits. In other words, I guess you have to actually unlearn your old habits first before the new habit sticks. And one way to unlearn the old habits is by spamming enough repetitions on the new one. This is something that people do mechanically. They end up crouch spraying too much. So that would be my second choice, or like second option, sorry. And then the third one, which is the one I kind of just stumbled upon as we were talking about this, is just a one-to-one switch from where you are to Teo. And realistically, I'd be curious on how that would go, but that isn't, I will say it's not necessarily a band-aid solution because it's more so just adapting to the meta. But one problem with doing approaches like that is it's playing to your strengths, but it's not addressing your weaknesses. So you will likely climb, which feels good in the short term, but you might see the issue that we're talking about again come up in the long term. But for the sake of getting us some momentum, that actually might be one of the better options. I don't know if you had time to watch that video I sent you from DDK, but to summarize for chat, you're nodding here, so you have seen it, but to summarize for chat, I sent him a video about slumping. And one of the things that DDK recommends to get out of a slump is to stop playing, take a break, or to deload. And he used the analogy of like a beaten dog. So the more I don't even want to say it again, but the more trauma that a thing experiences, the more effects it's gonna compound. So basically, the more losses you get in Valorant, the more it's gonna compound, and then you're gonna take less risk. You're not gonna think as clearly. So going the Taeho route might help us get some wins and then build some momentum, and then we'll think more clearly, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I've been yapping. What's your thoughts? Just in general or specific approaches? I just want to hear where you're at.
I guess I'll just start from what we just ended with, like going backwards through everything.
Sure.
So I played a lot of Teo when he came out, and that felt really good. I mean, the agent is incredibly strong, and like The amount of 1v3 clutches I could convert on that agent were illegal. So like I mean, like I know that if I would to do that, it would be overall good for, you know, a lot of things. The reason I stopped playing him so much last act is that it felt like it wasn't getting as much value because, like, you know, I guess maybe it was map pool specific or something, but like my Teo win rate would be pretty, like it was above 50, but like my Sova win rate was like close to 70.
Right.
So I was like, oh well, I'm just gonna play Sova. But you know, I would be so down to revisit Teo, but I do think, you know, there's a larger issue that needs to get addressed, and like I don't know if I'm a Clove player because there's so much to worry about in terms of smoke timings because they are so short, and like especially now that they're a 40-second recharge, I really don't think they're that good. I'm kind of anti-Clove.
Sure.
But like I would be down to do like some ISO reps. I mean, I get a shield that should be free. But like ultimately that's what you think is the best course of action, and I am down to do that for a week or however long that we feel like is necessary. And honestly, if I only focus on fights I know I will convert more often than not, significantly more often than not recently. And then I guess if you wanted to say something about the whole slump thing, is that like, I mean, like we've spoken about it before, but I like, you know that I'm a performer in my daily life, and I've been in like some of the most competitive institutions in the United States, and like it's just so different when it comes to this game. I don't know why. I mean, I think it's because it's not like it's a team-based thing. It's not an individual-based thing. So it's very easy for me in my own practice, in my instrument stuff to acknowledge things, to review things in that way. But like, I mean, it just feels like I don't know. I'm getting back to the point. This is good though. Like I've been team MVPing more lately, at least, but like I'm still just losing the same amount. I'm like, I feel like I'm doing the right things and I'm getting punished now. But like, I don't know. I think I'm down to try what you think is best here.
Yeah. What makes this difficult is everyone's journey is different, and I'm pulling my experience and my experience with other players to try to make good suggestions, right? But there's never like a perfect answer because number one, you know yourself better than I do. And number two, I don't know you enough to actually have a hardcore good prescription. But also, three, I can't see the future, right? So it's very possible that. What am I trying to say? The more I coach, the more I've learned that everyone's unique, and I have good results with a certain type of archetype of player, and basically that archetype of player is one that is very mechanical focused, because I can kind of just point them in the direction in terms of decision making because they haven't actually thought about that part yet. Which means most of my experience, that's why I tend to specialize in. I think it's also because it's the easier one. Typically with players on your end of the spectrum that is very decision-making focused, normally has a lower skill ceiling because mechanics is the foundation of Valorant, which is why my normal gut instinct to solve that problem is to tackle it directly by doing the Clove prescription. But I also recognize that there's other coaches that actually like that your type of player is very cerebral and will do the decision-making thing and lean into that to try to play a more perfect Valorant. So the reason why I say that is to acknowledge that you could probably have a different approach to the game. It's ultimately my viewpoint on the game that Valorant is mechanics first, and a lot of decision making could be simplified and leaning on the strength of mechanics. But that's also a very cop-out way to look at coaching, because if you think about it in basketball, I like this analogy that Roll G uses. But basically, if you're a middle school basketball player against other middle schoolers, you have to rely on like technique and skill and stuff. But if you're playing basketball and you're a high schooler or a college player against middle schoolers, there's no technique involved. You just out physicality, like you just out height them, you know? Using that analogy to Valorant, if you train your mechanics, you will be like, you can just out shit on people. And that's also why Smurfs are so, like, they just play so simple and just win, which is why it's a cop out. But it's also, in my opinion, right? This is just my viewpoint of the game. I think that your gun duel conversion is actually your true rank in terms of skill level. So if you were to get rid of all the utility in this game and you just took gun duels and played the game that way, whether or not you would naturally rank up and derank until you are at 50% gun duel. So let's say like you're at 55% gun duels conversion, you would rank up until it becomes 50, and then vice versa. If you're below 50% win rate, or like let's say 45% gun duel conversion, you would derank until it comes back up to 50. And I like to look at Valorant in that simple way, because I subscribe to the idea that Valorant is a shooter first. In which case, I like to isolate that by prescribing people the Clove, ISO, Reyna, and actually Vice, oddly enough, because they're very simple playstyles. You don't have to think too much about the nuances. You fast rotate, you slam sights, you play for good trades, you just gun duel people and win. And you probably haven't watched it because it's Clove reviews, but the current rank 1 player, it might actually even be useful to take a look at some of his VODs on.
Oh, yes, Note.
So I've looked at his VODs for the past, I want to say 3 weeks, maybe 4. I mean, he doesn't do, his decision making isn't anything crazy. It's very basic. He just literally duels people and wins them, and he has great pre-aim, great scaling, great trades. Like he is a fighter, and it's gotten him to the rank 1 thing. And when I contrast him with another Clove player, or at least another player that used to play a lot of Clove, is Knights, if I can find the act. He was the rank 1 player for like 4 acts in a row or 3 acts in a row. And he was playing a mix of agents, ISO, Clove, Reyna, you know, like that archetype. And his playstyle was also very straightforward. He was just fast rotating on defense. He was just flooding, looking for fights. And the common thread between Knights and Note is that they're good fighters, but their playstyles on defense are actually different. Like Note plays a lot slower. He will actually play more anchor playstyle. He will look in to push up and stuff like that. So in that sense, it's the playstyle I'm trying to push you to do. He's actually already doing a similar playstyle to you, but he just pretty much converts a lot more duels, which goes back to the gun duel argument. So I'm contradicting myself there a little bit, but I'm trying to emphasize the piece that if you have a simple playstyle that is kind of something that you know works for you, and you also can leverage your gun duels, and I want to say that specifically, leverage your gun duels in your playstyle, then it allows you to kind of climb. In our case here, from my read when I was looking at your VODs, our playstyle doesn't actually allow us to leverage our gun duels, which is why I wanted to kind of adjust it from the first time we saw our VOD. And typically that's how I adjust recon initiative players anyways, is to try to get them into more fights and into the action more to get more gun duels, which Note's playstyle lets him get gun duels, which is why I think it's working. All of that to say, the reason I even started that Yap session is because any of those 3 approaches make sense. And I think that instead of relying on my gut instinct for that, it might make a little bit more sense to rely on your gut instinct for which option makes sense, or even there's like an unexplored option there. But we've highlighted the problems, I guess, and there's a couple of ways we could tackle it. And I want your kind of initial thoughts, opinions on what you would like to do for that. And you immediately already said that, you know, maybe Clove isn't the way to do that. So do you have, I guess, any other opinions on how you like to solve this? Because I think ultimately this is also important for your growth moving forward, is like if you're able to identify your own problems and also figure out some solutions to it, that is best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, so my thoughts as you were speaking about like conversion of gun duels and like that whole like the 50% thing is like that's what your true rank was, and just like thinking about everything like I think that when I set myself up appropriately, I almost always feel like I can convert, and like there's been plenty of games before I like went on the whole slump loss streak in Ascendant lobbies where I would have like a 60% to 70% gun rate, gun duel like win rate, and that was like fairly consistent for a lot of last act. It really only started dipping at the very end of the act, right before we started. So I know that that's something that I'm completely capable of doing. It feels like when I play specific games that I'm just never able to set myself up correctly, and I don't always have the ability to recognize why that's happening. And that's like what I acknowledge is like is my biggest issue is like it's not necessarily it's not like the gunfight itself, it's knowing predicting, I suppose, what I need to do prior to take the best fight, because I will convert that then. I'm not sure what the hard like the solution is other than being like more disciplined in everything about like scaling stuff. But then I come across like feeling like I'm not fast enough for things. And that's something that like people I've played with have always complained about, is that like sometimes I'm very slow. And I guess maybe now I just try to rush things too much. I'm not sure. But as for moving forward, I think ultimately you are correct that focusing on that aspect of the game is the most important. Obviously, it is, a shooter, as you keep saying. So I think ultimately, like, putting myself in a role or a position or some kind of mind frame that is going to force me to only just like take fights properly, it would be beneficial. So that might be, playing. I'm a little worried that it's not going to be as good as I think it might be, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you cut out literally for 2 seconds. I heard playing, and then I heard not as good as it would come out to be. What did you say there?
Oh God, I was saying that I'm open to playing other roles. I'm mostly worried that it won't be as good as I think it would be in my head. Like I wouldn't actually convert as much as I like fights, but that's like the whole thing we're tackling, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, which is honestly probably the more likely scenario, is switch new agent, adds mental stack, trying to learn new agent, and the mechanics dip, and we end up actually in the same problem, just on a new agent. In that sense, it's probably something that would get worse before it gets better. But my hope, if we were to switch to something like that, is that the skill floor and the entry point for these agents is so low that once you kind of get through that initial barrier, it will free up your mental stack to go back to the mechanics. So I think that is probably something that is going to happen. I would just be curious on how long that stage would last. Yeah, I think it goes back to, I'm seeing some people talk about this in the chat, which is a really good point. Something I talked about in a podcast episode is like the best playstyle for ranked and the agents that lean into it, which is kind of what I'm talking about here with the Clove, ISO, Reyna, Vice. But I was speaking specifically in the podcast about Vice. And in short, it's the most effective playstyle on attack is going with the team, playing for trades, playing for the site hit. So Vice, how does she do that effectively? You wall flank, you flash for early space or the execute, and you throw your thorns in the smoke so that the counter to fast rushing is fast rotating. But if the thorns are in the smoke, they can't fast flood. So it means that they have to start on the site initially, which most people don't. So you can pretty much just create an arena with your Thorns and just rush. So Vice leans into the fast site executes thing really well. And then if you flip that, best playstyle to play on defense is to stop rushes. Normally people do that consistently by playing fast rotate so that they can immediately rotate on first sign of life, right? That makes sense. But as Vice, number one, as a Sentinel, you have global util, which is amazing. So you can play that fast rotate playstyle if you want to, or you can play site anchor and you have one of the best site holds in the game because her util is busted. So either way, you have really two really good options that counter the common playstyle in ranked. So from that lens, Vice pretty much counters ranked playstyle. I think Clove, ISO, and Reyna lean into that as well. Not necessarily for the same site hold reason, but for the fast rotate reason. And then on attack, obviously they just go with the team and, you know, that note. But an agent that I also brought up in the conversation during that was Teo. So Teo on attack can just rush sites because he has a drone that suppresses, and drone util is typically good to rush. And then he has 2 missiles that are incredibly OP to take site space because it clears two spots, right? So when you play Teo, you're likely being able to rush a lot of rounds. And then on defense, the way you counter fast executes is fast rotating. So you could fast rotate with your missiles. And 2, by having really good util, right? So if you think about Vice, the reason why Vice is so strong against fast executes is because that wall and Thorns delay for so long and it splits the entry. You can do the exact same thing with the missiles as you're rotating in, and then you can pull out your little stun thing as you're flooding. Of course, you could do that on other agents as well. Like Fade has the Seize, and you know you have the Haunt to kind of counter rushes in that same vein. But we aren't seeing us play the fast rotate as often and as frequently as we could. And also the impact of the scan isn't guaranteed, whereas the Teo missiles are. So in that sense, what am I really trying to say here? The agent choice isn't as important, right? Like it's about the play style that is important. It's just that some of these agents let you play that play style a bit more effectively and more simply. And I think with recon initiators, you kind of have to jump through a lot of hoops sometimes to get the same impact as you would on another agent. Like the scan thing, for example. Sometimes you get the scan and sometimes you don't. But then you think about Teo and it's like the missiles will always do damage. Or if you think about Clove, you know, imagine you play Clove and sometimes your smokes would smoke and sometimes it wouldn't. It's just like, what the fuck, you know? So having the more guaranteed util in that sense lets you play a very consistent playstyle. And if scans always scan, then you could make a very rehearsed playstyle where you sit behind smokes, throw your thing up, and then you just always wall hack them. But sometimes it gets the kills and sometimes it don't. So one round you might play the exact same way against the same rush, get 3 scans, gets 3 kills. And then you do it again, and then you get no kills, and you're sitting behind smoke, you have to play retake. Which is like, it feels so all or nothing. So going back to the original point, it's not really the agent choice that matters. It's just how simple that playstyle is and being able to get through that initial entry barrier so that you can go back and focus on your fights again. Because once you can get your fighting down and that becomes like you free up your mental stack, you will be able to make more intentional decisions on where your positioning is on site and all of those things. But right now, because we're trying to like juggle both, we're like falling short on different rounds for different reasons. And I would rather the problem be exactly the same like all 12 rounds, you know, but it's not that. So it's hard to work on. So the Clove ISO Reyna recommendation just hopefully lets us isolate that a little bit more clearly, I guess. That's my goal. I know I kind of am saying the same thing over and over again, but just in different ways. But I'm trying to, I guess, explain it a little bit more so that you can kind of see my perspective a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be most beneficial for you to be able to isolate one thing at this time, and if that means me play one of those agents, so you can really hyper focus on that thing, that's fine. I totally get that. And under that guise, it's a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, we could just do that. Yeah.
Yeah. The takeaway that I wanted to do, let's hop into a custom, is the drilling part. So, let's see. I don't have you added. Could you send me your friend request? Or do I have you added?
Yes.
We might have been
You
in
do
the custom.
not.
Okay. So let's just run through some scaling. It doesn't really matter what agent you do the scaling on because we'll just pretend like the util's already thrown.
What's the tag? NA1?
Yes. Most basic
Like-
tag. But yeah, as we're kind of setting this up, let's just do Haven because that's the map we saw. What do you think in terms of what approach you would want to do in terms of agents and stuff like that?
I mean, what's like a realistic scenario, I guess? Like I mean, I've done this in other scenarios and I've just been like, I won't use util, I'll just scale. Because you know, I can't guarantee, you know, anything with util typically, like, or you know, there's always just like there's too much to like actually. I feel like if I use like a dart or something, it's a lot easier if I know exactly where the person is as well. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just not use util most likely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna lock Reyna and I'm gonna scale.
So it sounds like you want to go. Oh, sorry. I guess I was asking that question specifically for the ranked approach.
Oh, I thought you meant right now.
Yeah. But I mean, not using util in this game as well is good in this setting.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what was the initial question then?
Like what approach would you want to do in terms of, because like we kind of outlined there's 3 options. Like obviously we have the clove approach potentially. We have the, well, I think you voiced like not really the clove, but
I mean, I'm down to try it. I know that like a lot of people get a lot of value out of it, and I think it's mainly just like myself being averse to it. I think it is good, and like if I just sat down for a little bit and like, okay, I just have to smoke on this timing, and like once I know exactly when that is, like it's gonna be fine.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't have
Plus
to be the
res
clove
and
either.
smokes for
It could
yeah,
be
it doesn't
the,
have to be. But I mean that agent had the highest win rate in the game for a reason.
we have a couple options, right? You could do the Vice, you could do the ISO, you could do the like whatever. It's all good at the end of the day.
I mean, I know the Vice would fit into my playstyle very easily, and I filled Cinti before a few times, and anytime I've played Cinti, it feels incredibly easy to play the game. So, like, that's fine too.
Mm-hmm. I think whatever is going to be the easiest transition between that agent pool would probably be the best, so you can focus mostly on your mechanic.
Yeah, I probably play Vice or I play Teo. I think if we really want to like isolate things, it should be the Vice. But you know, on the same side of things, I think ISO is also incredibly simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think it wouldn't be a lot of additional stack to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I could be wrong, but that is my initial assumption.
Okay. We'll kind of have to play around in that and like come to a more concrete thing. But let's start with the garage contact and let's see, how should we do this? Are you able to screen share your screen on Discord so
Yep,
that
of course.
I can see that piece? And I'll just be referencing that on my second monitor. And I'll you've probably seen this before, but I'll just sit in a corner somewhere and I'll just be staring at your scaling.
All right.
Loading. Fix. Okay, so let's you start off a barrier there and then kind of walk up garage as you would, and being aware of like all threats, I guess, like off a barrier. What threats would be off a barrier?
Okay. Yeah, and it'd be like this if I'm just contacting. Yeah, and then
Yeah, so that should ideally be an insta kill. So let's go back and do that.
Yeah, I was like, wait, should I actually kill him?
Yeah, you should kill me. You should kill. I'll put on auto respawn.
Okay. And I'll do it again.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so you can see the crosshair placement there. Like we're not even pre-aiming it well. So let's do that exact fight again, but just make sure that when you're coming up into that fight, it's as clean as possible, right? We're trying to make sure that
Right.
we're polished in all of this.
Yep.
Okay, good. Now I am going to find a different spot, and you're going to do the same stuff. Just clearing as many angles as you can, but I'm just going to be in a different spot this time. Dude, where would I even pick? Just pick this one. I think this is possible.
Okay.
Okay, so slightly off. That's good. I'm gonna just make your way into garage this time if you can. I'm just gonna pick a spot.
Yep.
Okay, so there you would have died to window or at least getting shot at. So let's go back. I think you want to do the same
Okay, so
routing
you-
that you did before.
Okay, you want me to flip? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Okay, notice how that was a shift peak? We can clean that up a little bit. I guess one thing that maybe I should ask is like, I don't know if the parameter is being set here on whether or not we're assuming that garage window is smoked. Because if we aren't, then we didn't actually clear that properly there. So for the sake of this, let's just assume garage window isn't clear and there's
Okay.
not a smoke there, just to increase the
You
difficulty.
got it. You got it.
Let's keep going. Box, good. Good. Something I've noticed when you're peeking a little bit is you're doing like that little jiggle when you're doing the Deddy peek. Let's see. Can you alt tab to my Discord screen real quick?
Yep.
And I'll move this over so it doesn't jitter. Okay. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay, so right now we're peeking a little bit. Like I'll try to make it as clear as possible. When we're peeking, we're kind of going on this AD. So like we'll peek AD a little bit, peek AD a little bit, peek AD a little bit. You want to cut that out. So when you peek, it should be ideally as clean as possible. Peek, stop, micro, peek, stop, micro. If they're there, peek, stop, micro. And then also in terms of in a real game, once you're on this box and you clear this, you would just actually walk back down. So you can do it silent. And then here, peek, stop, micro, peek, stop, micro, peek, stop, micro, peek, stop, micro. If you're registering that they're there. Like it should never be a peek jiggle because that's adding extra time for you to go for that micro. That
Yep.
make sense?
100%.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick another spot in garage here, and we will go on. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna pick another spot. You can just pick up the routing from close garage this time, just to save a little bit of time, because I think you have the mid walk down done. Yep, go for it. Okay, something I'm noticing with this clear, and this is probably just a personal preference of mine, we aren't actually jiggling with this angle here. And this angle garage door is very difficult to clear, so that might be something you can consider here. It's just throwing in a jiggle to get more info. Basically,
Yep,
the
okay.
skill we're trying to develop here is contacting space and doing the right techniques correctly on those. So something to consider. I'm gonna go into a new spot. Go ahead.
Oh, I would have missed.
Yeah, so we would have died there. That's where maybe a jiggle goes in.
Yeah, yeah.
Jiggling that is good. New spot now. Go ahead.
Like
Yeah, that fight's
this
hard.
feels so awkward.
Yep, this is why garage is like a high difficulty contact spot. So before we continue, we're actually approaching these garage angle clears differently each time. Like sometimes you'll peek window differently than you would before. So let's come up with a more systematic formula. I want you to tell me as you're walking through garage which angles you want to clear and how you want to clear it. And before you move on to the next one, let's talk about that first one, and I'll kind of just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So
Yeah, okay, so the first threats are this window area. So I should be going like, I should be looking here,
okay.
and then I should walk up, I think, right?
So walking up is dependent on your scale timing, but technically after you clear this window, normally what I like to do is go wide left. So I can clear.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say is that I should look here, and then I need the close box angle.
Yep. And
then
deeper angle. Yep.
Yeah. And then I should jiggle this,
Yep.
and then after that, this guy.
You can hard clear that. Yeah. Okay, so let's just run through that, exactly what you just said, and see what it looks like.
Okay.
Okay, that looks good. Something that maybe I'll add to that to make it slightly better is let me switch to your team real quick. You're clearing this angle here, but you're actually not clearing the box angle, which I would consider to be the more common one. So either you have to slice this first angle without seeing this box angle, or you have to kind of, I guess, be aware of both when you do it. I don't know if that makes sense. But like there's two threats here.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
So that's something to think about. The other thing to mention too is when you're transitioning, like let's say you just cleared this corner. Technically, the next step actually is to re-clear the angle just in case they walked back up on you.
Right. Okay.
So instead of like clearing this corner and immediately going close to jiggle, we should clear this corner and then re-clear the angle again and then going for the jiggle. In your jiggle here, what you'll notice is I'm actually on this back wall because I'm re-clearing these angles. So let's see what that looks like for you.
Okay.
Let me move.
Clear that.
Yep. Okay. I would say the jiggle could be a little bit cleaner. Let me do it on my screen and let's just like not even talk about it. I'll just do it and then you try to immediately replicate it. Yeah, can you see it?
Yep.
Yep. I would say that hopefully is acceptable. All right, go for it.
I went a little too wide that one.
Let's try it again. I'll go through it exactly again without saying anything. And we'll see if we pick it up. This is a repetitions thing, so good to go?
Yep.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, looks like the hardest part might be the jiggles there. So I'm just gonna go back and do the re-clear and then the jiggles, and then we'll just, I guess, put your intention on the jiggles there.
Yeah.
The key here, I guess, is to think about where I'm doing these jiggles. So 1, 2, 3. You don't have to do that third one, but 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's not perfect and consistent every time, but the intent is on what angle. So 1, 2, 3. 1.
Got it.
2, 3.
Okay.
let's actually go into the garage hit now. I guess for this, just to keep the same pattern, I'll walk through it and then you'll try to replicate.
Sure.
Yeah, so you have garage control. And let's just go from there.
All right. Okay, we have garage control.
Okay, go back. We're skipping the left corner. Do left corner first and then plat.
Okay. Wait, so I need to be looking for this corner before I look for the deep
Yes.
for that. I see what you're saying. Okay. And then what? Or
Yeah.
are you saying?
Honestly, you're doing it well too. That's fine. This variation is good as long as you come back and re-clear left. It's just a different order than what I did it. Yep. And then for that backside angle particularly, I like to jiggle that one. That is a preference thing. But let me walk through it and I'll just explain my thought process on these. And then we'll run through it again. So there's a top plat angle that I'm peeking first. I like to jiggle this first one because it's an up down. After that, I'll peek out and clear these like standing wall angles one by one. From here, I like to walk up because I don't want to peek plat yet because if I get spotted, I might get stuck. So I'll come up on this right side wall here, jiggle this, come back and then clear the plat angle. I'll peek it. I like to jiggle this one because it's a difficult angle for me to fight and he has angle advantage. And then I'll go into the wide swing here on the spawn rotator. So walking through it one more time. Jiggle the up down, peek the bottom angles because there's no up down. Use the back wall here as I scale to clear this corner. Jiggle this corner, come back, peek the bottom plat, jiggle this, peek spawn.
Okay.
Yeah. And for this rep, I'll just say one of these corners. Go here.
And okay. I will be killing you. Got it.
Yeah. Well, you would jiggle me and then maybe refight for this.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah. So.
Yeah. Go ahead and jiggle again and try it again. Okay, good. Then you just keep scaling. Just pretend like I died.
Okay. Keep scaling down.
Yep.
Wait.
Yeah. Both orders are fine, to be fair. I just have the preference to do the other corner first.
Right.
Okay. We can clean that up a little bit more. Polish it a little bit more. Try to make each movement and each peak as efficient as you can. That's the key. So I'm not even going to be on site this time. I'm just going to let you clear the angles. But yeah, let's efficiency. Yeah, so that's good. No wasted movement there. Okay. So there's two spots there that felt a little bit odd, but I'm just gonna let you keep going, and hopefully I'll continue correcting with each rep. I'm not actually gonna even point it out. Just keep going. Okay. Let's do that rep without the crouch, and I want to see what that looks like. Just get rid of your crouch key for this one.
Sure. Actually feels very uncomfortable for some reason.
Okay. I would say it looks a little bit cleaner. It seems like you're throwing in the crouch when you're uncomfortable, which is throwing in like a slight jiggle. So just run through that again without the crouch. Okay, so we skipped that
Yeah.
one. Yep.
I did.
Okay, that's our best rep so far. Let's keep running it. And this time I'm gonna sit in the spot. You can try to kill me. But after you kill me, just keep going.
Yep.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh yeah, I have to keep going. I forgot.
Okay, good. Gonna do that again. This is a repetition game. Yep, keep going.
Keep going. Keep going.
The routing is ever so slightly changing sometimes in the order, so that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Good. Yeah, go ahead. Yep, good. Go ahead. Okay, for that plat angle, just make sure you back up a little bit more if you're gonna do it in that order.
Okay.
Yep, go for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was totally not ready for that one.
Yeah, I just threw in a random one on you. That is sometimes that's gonna happen. So honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot about this angle, so I gotta just pick it. So yeah. Okay, go for it.
Well, I missed.
Yeah, you're gonna miss. Notice that jiggle though. You actually didn't do a proper deady peek and stop. Like we kind of
Yeah.
rushed it.
That's 100% why I did. I did it again anyway. Wow.
Yeah, keep going. It's okay. Wait, do I have invulnerability on? No. I was about to say.
I don't know how that missed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Really, like
maybe
getting that slightly off.
maybe that slice there was a bit too wide. Because like we should be able
Yeah,
to
it
jiggle the first
was.
one, which is what you're doing on the up down. Peek the lower one, yep. And then move on to me. Yeah.
Where'd that bullet go?
I don't know. I wonder if it's a custom, but
It worked that time.
we need people from the stream to load in and just be bots standing in corners.
Real.
All right. Let's see. Let me pick my spot. All right. Yeah, so we're rushing that wrap a little bit. Like we're getting a little bit unpolished on some of those.
Yeah.
So the two ones I want to point out there is when you clear that deep back plat angle, we could back up a little bit. And then that last like jiggle into the spawn fight there feels a little bit off. And I guess it's because it's like we kind of threw in like 2 jiggles or something there. So let's try to clean that one up on this one.
Sure.
I know it's a little bit boring, but this is the implementation part. It's always the unfun one. Good. Yep, that one was perfect. That was a really good clean rep. Let's do that again.
Oh,
It's close. It's close. You likely won't get the insta kill in game as well, but that is the ideal, right?
that's the ideal.
Yep. And hopefully you can just see why we're doing this, because there's a lot of like things to fill in here, like inconsistencies.
Yeah, and it feels uncomfortable to do, which
Yeah.
is not ideal.
Well, it is in the sense of improvement. We're targeting our weaknesses here.
Yeah, of course.
Nice. That was a very clean one. Again, back up on that one.
Yeah, I had to do it from back here.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do it in that order on purpose,
Sure.
just so I actually remember to back up.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I was looking. I looked here first.
You looked here
and
first.
then-
Yep. And then
And
back
then
up.
I need to back up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Would you recommend doing exercise like this with friends to practice clearing angles versus holding? For sure. You could also like alternate the practice. So like if I was wanting to get practice in as well, sorry Pixel, you can keep going. If I wanted to practice as well, I would be shooting Pixel to practice my angle holding while he tries to clear me. So like one guy is practicing their angle clears while the other guy is practicing their angle hold. It's like here I would be shooting Pixel, but as a coach I'm just watching. So yeah, run through that again. Sorry to interrupt. No, you're good.
Oh, how did I miss you the first time?
Honestly, I actually don't know. I'm on a slight off angle, I suppose.
Yeah, you're really deep, actually.
Yeah. Is this might just be one of those off angles that's hard to clear.
Yeah, I don't see you until like I get up to here.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I play that angle in ranked intuitively. I'll play the
that
more
makes
standard one.
sense.
Is it just me or do I see the quick switch every time it gets the kill? Could be bad, at least when this is a back drill. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so that one's getting a little bit cleaner. Let's refresh the garage one so we don't forget. So this time we'll do the garage rep, and then once you complete the garage rep and have garage control, I'm gonna fly on to C site and you'll continue with the split, if that makes sense.
You got it. Should I be starting all the way back? No, you use it just the garage.
Yeah, let's just do the garage, yeah.
I
Go for it. Okay, go clean that one up, go back. We don't want to jiggle these first ones here. At least not what we did initially. Yep, peek.
yeah.
And that jiggle was a little bit wide.
It was wide.
Something to consider here that we're not doing this. It seems to be a similar thing on before, but when you kind of come up to this, you want to actually back up. So don't jiggle from close to this wall, like this door. Jiggle from this back wall door.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
got you.
Let's keep going.
I was wide on that one.
Yep. Back up.
Nope, not
Yep.
close.
Yep.
Not
Back
close.
up.
Oh, I missed, but yeah.
Okay. Let's keep running through this garage one until it's clean again, and then we'll go back to the C-split. It's one of those things, even if you learn it, it's all about the implementation. Yeah, so we're close again.
Keep going close. I don't know why I'm doing that.
It feels natural, I understand.
Yeah.
Let me pick a spot. Yep, go for it. Honestly, the window fight is probably the hardest one to take, which is why sometimes, like, if it was smoked off, it would make this contact a lot easier.
Yeah.
Wait, my character keeps zooming in and out. What the fuck's going on? Okay.
Valorant.
Yeah. Yeah, we're close again.
Ah.
Back up.
It's so frustrating.
I know. Our brain won't get it until you do it a couple times. This is the whole unlearning bad habits thing. Yeah, that looks better though. Yeah, do that a couple more times and then we'll go back to the C site. Back up.
Really wide.
Yeah, that's one of those off angles. Back up. Those are good jiggles. At least I was watching it from my POV. That's like really hard to kill.
Okay, cool. I keep like I want to do it really badly for this close one for some reason, and then it feels more natural back, but I don't know why. But
I mean, that's probably fine if you want. I could probably see your shoulder though if you go for that first jiggle like that, but maybe it's okay. Let me see what it looks like. If you do it that way.
Let's see.
So I do see you on that jiggle. Jiggle again.
And if I'm back here.
Yeah, and then back up. Yeah, I do see you, but then you see me. So
Okay.
I'd be curious on how it converts. I'd say it's hard to tell, but maybe. That's a maybe. I don't think garage contacting is a solved, but as long as you're jiggling those three angles, it's probably the most important, I guess.
All right.
And I guess this is also why util is so important in this game. You don't have to do this as often, but let's move on to the C-split.
Yeah, I just press my C key and then I know where they are.
Yeah,
I don't need to. I don't know if I've ever had to contact in the garage. All right. What? Where am I? Oh, I was about to say.
Our
I
frames
wonder
are
why frames
low.
are bad.
Our frames are low. We could reset it actually. Let me just.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Just give me a nudge.
Wait, whoops! I did it one too many.
Taking a wee kip. Bet they're feeling frazzled.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. All right, go for
All
it.
right. I don't know if I would have died there or not.
Nah, you probably would have just got the jiggle. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yep.
No. Oh, I actually missed you on that.
On the jiggle, yeah. We'll have to jiggle a little bit more.
Okay.
Nice. I just wanted to shoot you. Oh man. Okay, sorry.
Oh, nothing to apologize about. I'm okay if you try to shoot me. I think that's good too. Because realistically, I need to do it well. Otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna get shot.
Yeah, it's a different different type of practice.
Yeah.
Also, I guess this front default angle that I'm standing on now is something you don't have to worry about if you have a proper C split going on. Like you have a C long player.
Typically.
Yeah.
Typically, yes.
Which is probably why it is more uncommon, I guess. Okay, let's do this on another side of the map because I think the C split thing is looking better. This front B one is pretty common, so I will show you how I like to do it, and then we'll flip the roles.
Yep.
So for this, let's kind of assume we're coming from grass, just to keep it thorough. Peek, peek. I like to drop down on this if I'm going a bit slower. I always like to jiggle this first angle because I never win it. Then the important thing here is to get into the center so that you can clear this corner and then clear your sides one by one. I like to bounce back between the two. And I'm slowly scaling up. And then from here, it's about a commit. So based on the read here, you can break the trip and then go and clear left. Or you can break the trip and go and clear the right. For this rep, I just want you to pretend like there is a trip and then just immediately go in. And then continue scaling. Let me recap. Basically, the real thing I want to see isn't even this mid walk. Let's just pretend you have that down. I want to see these front B fights. And then we'll get this down first. So clear this. Peek left. Come back. Peek right. And then that will be one completed rep for now. And we'll move on to the next stage after.
All right.
All right.
I'm usually not well there.
Yeah, that top
Like-
B angle is fucked.
It's very hard to.
Some people jump spot it too, but
I mean, yeah,
but
I
for
could,
this,
but
we'll just go with the
not-
jiggles.
not silently.
Yeah. Okay. Remember, you're clearing the close
So-
left corner first.
Yeah, so you just need to stay. Okay, yep, that makes sense.
Yep, yep. Mm-mm. So they were a little bit too open.
Yeah, how?
You'd have to be a
'cause
little bit
you're gonna
more.
get exposed to this, right?
So it's possible to do it without. You have to be a little bit more precise on where you're standing when you scale. So notice right now, like if you stand where I am, you can clear this corner without being seen to sight.
Okay, yeah. I just have to. Yep, that
Yep.
works.
Bum bum bum. Doing max training like this is always exposing.
I could have shot you.
Okay, and then
Do that
complete the rep
again.
there. Yep.
Yep.
We won't go into the actual sight tick yet. So let's just keep drilling that part in. You feel like you're ready for that peak?
Yeah, I honestly wasn't ready to shoot, mainly just because I'm not like.
In the headspace? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but I would have been ready to kill you if like I was thinking about it more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where am I? Okay, so we would have just done this, and
Yep.
now I'm going.
And rep completed.
I still
Quick,
don't remember that I'm supposed to shoot you.
yeah, shoot the kill or peek the kill. Peeking with the intention to kill is probably one of the most important things to have in this game. That you can do everything right, but then the headspace isn't there, we're
Yeah.
fucked.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm
Bit wide on
divided
that one.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's good. Maybe we could wrap up there. I was gonna have you continue walking in front B, but honestly, that seems super unrealistic. So just hunting for that front B kill is important. Let's kind of have some closing thoughts here. Let me stop watching the Discord screen share, and then I'll have you bounce back over to my Discord screen share. Yeah. So what's important here? Well, the important thing is in terms of scaling and stuff, custom stuff like that. I think practicing the preaim and scaling is going to be really important. Let's have that be the primary focus for this week in terms of seeing what our peaking technique looks like as we're going into site. Also, this is true for retakes as well. I know we didn't get to touch on the actual fast rotate defense type of thing, but maybe maybe just having the specific peaking angle one focus thing for defense or for just the game in general is probably better. Basically, the focus for this week is peaking angles properly, knowing how we want to clear them with proper technique and all of that stuff is priority number 1 this week. The approach to this for ranked game agents is we have a couple of options, but in the custom, you're going to kind of walk through that how you would regardless. And then agent selection, I think you could do this to help isolate it even more. So where's your head at with what agent you would like to do for this experiment?
I think in the terms of what would be the 2 most successful picks are obviously going to be Teo for 1, just because I actually have experience, and 2 for Vice because you get a free kill box. Like, that should be fairly consistent to convert, and also it actually gives you more opportunity to potentially take those contacty like lurk kills potentially. So you know, I think it's probably should be Vice, but that's my initial thought.
I say we give it a go. Maybe get a couple of reps in it. I would say before coming to a concrete decision on whether or not the Vice is working or not, give it probably like 5 games. And then from there, we can have a conversation over DMs if you feel like there should be a transition or like a pivot.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I guess actionables for this week is adding custom preem scaling practice. I guess maybe a different way to think about it is contacting angles practice. I would say 15 minutes each day. Just pick a new map and run around the map going through this. And then playing Vice for the week to isolate mechanics training, which is peaking angles properly / contact. Following up on our routine stuff, let's see, what do we have here? We would basically just replace this thing here with this and make it longer, it seems. So
yeah.
Trying to think, is there anything else that we probably want to change on this one? I don't think so. Yeah, follow the same process, but just change this. So I'll copy and paste it down below.
All right.
Oops. Da 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 da. 15 minutes, and then this will be the bolded one. Bold, bold, bold. Okay. Gonna look at these other ones. For now, playbook stuff out. Yeah, okay, this looks good. Cool. Questions, comments, concerns?
Nope, I think that was a good session, and you know, like, the path forward is clear.
Cool. Definitely let me know on how it's going this week, but yeah, let's keep it super simple this week. Just work on this one thing here, and we'll see where we are with that specifically next week.
Yep, 100%.
All right, man. You take care. Good luck.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace, peace.
Bye.
Oh, all right, chat. That was hopefully useful. I know drills are probably a little bit boring to watch, just because it's very repetitive. But yeah, that's the session for today. I need to hop out of here. You guys take care, And yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. That was great. Good. A little bit boring. I also realized when you sent that message, Top, that I could have been just on the desktop scene the entire time. So yeah, that probably would have been better, but it is what it is. Thank you for stream. Thanks for coming. Next stream will be next Monday with Path again, where we will do more drills. Or not more drills, more coaching. But yeah, you guys take care. I'll see you guys hopefully next Monday. Otherwise, Pixel Coaching is again next Wednesday. And yeah, you guys have a good week. Peace. Peace. Peace.